Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Enthador. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and this is Dwarf Fortress. And in this episode, we are not going to actually be playing the game. So if you really care about that, you can skip this one. But what I'd like to do in this episode is talk about some cool tools that I've recently discovered. I'm actually recording this later than probably the next 5 episodes, so I'm going to try really hard not to give any spoilers, but I really want you to see this. So what we're looking at right now is a program called MagicaVoxel, or MagicaVoxel, and it's by someone named F. Tracy. And it's a program that allows you to create and display 3D renderings based on a block Minecraft-y type interface. So Japa from the Dwarf Fortress forums has created a tool called Voxel Fortress, which allows you to take the maps that you generate from Legends mode and import it into this program so that you can view your world in 3D. And it's really cool. Japa is just such a huge figure in the Dwarf Fortress community. He has contributed or worked all by himself on programs such as IsoWorld, StoneSense, and this program on top of others, like one I'm going to be showing you a bit later, which is still a work in progress, called Dwarf Portrait. But for right now, I want to look at this. So this in front of us is Enthador, and I'm still not particularly great at navigating this program. So it's going to be a little fiddy and starty, but please bear with me. So as you can see, let me see here. I'm trying to... There we go. Okay, so this is the world of Enthador, and this is the way it looks when we are looking at the map. So this is north, south, west, and east. So this is the huge mountain range that our dwarven civilization, the Oaken Flags, comes from. Here's basically the large dwarven mountain civilization where they're what I have determined to be the homeland of the dwarves of Enthador. This is where they came from, and they spread out to these little mountain ranges. It's kind of sad how weak and pathetic these little mountain ranges look compared to the two main ones. Now, you can use this program in multiple ways. There are a lot of maps that are exported. I chose to use the biome map with details because I think it manages to show the way it would actually look in a real map better than any other export. Now, there's just a plain biome export, but the one thing that doesn't show is civilizations. So it's cool for looking at land, but it doesn't really show the buildings and stuff. But also, it's more vague in terms of biomes. Like, for example, this here where Sandpillar is located is a black sand desert. But if you were to look at it in the biome color scheme, it would just look like any other desert. So this gives you a bit more detailed, which is probably why it's referred to as the detailed map export. But you could really do this with any map export. So you can do it with the trade export. You could do it with the evil export. So the color scheme will be based on that particular export. So if you did evil, for example, like this evil ocean will be a different color from the rest of the map, and so on and so forth. But for the purposes of displaying your world in a reasonable approximation of real life, I found that this one was the best. So the first thing we want to look at, obviously, is Sandpillar. So let's try to do that. I'm, again, not super good at this, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So here's the black sand desert that Sandpillar is part of. And yeah, I'm just going to try to work this here. So we zoom in with the W key. And there's different formats, ways of looking at it. But all right, you can already see Sandpillar. Why? Because in this particular map mode, it shows up as white little squares. Now, these white squares here, these are the goblin dark fortresses that surround us. So we're going to try to zoom in here. Okay, see, you're seeing we're getting a little closer now. That is Sandpillar. Now, one thing this program makes the Z levels out to be squares. So I think it makes the Z levels out to be a little bit taller than you might imagine they are. But as you can see, Sandpillar was built on a 1 Z level incline. So half of it is on the ground level, if you want to call it that, and the other half is 1 Z level above it. I think we missed a huge opportunity because if you look here, oh geez, see, I'm still getting my feet on this tool, but if you look here, you'll notice that there's this giant 4 Z level waterfall just a teensy little bit south of Sandpillar. And so had we embarked there, we could have made our pillar that much taller and also got to interact with cool waterfall stuff. But obviously when you're using the game's built-in sight finder, you're not really able to see these distinctions, which is why I think I'm going to use this tool to pick out future locations for fortresses, because it allow for more regional variance and cool looking stuff. But this is the general place where Sandpillar is in the world, and if I'm going to try here to get a little bit closer to it, okay, that's pretty good. Once I'm close, I like to go to the free mode because it makes things just a little bit easier to move. But so if you're in Sandpillar, so that's what this is here. If you're standing here on well, we're a little high now, but if you're here at Sandpillar, you're standing on top of Sandpillar, you're a dwarf, right? Here's what you see. You look to the south, you see this waterfall, this giant waterfall. You look over to the west, and you see the mountain range here, the home of our civilization. You keep going, and you continue to see the mountain range. You can see some giant waterfalls here, like Yosemite-style, multi-story waterfalls. And then you look at the river valley that the little river that touches upon Sandpillar goes through. So when the goblins attack us, typically they've attacked us from this direction. They've attacked us from the north. So I guess technically down there. And as you can see here, the outline of Sandpillar does take away from the other colors. This actually should be blue, and this should probably be blue as well. So you see the river continuing, but since it's part of our fortress, it covers it up. But that's how it would look. So I can't wait to see what new changes Japa is going to make in this program to make it even more detailed, if he even can, since he technically is just using a game and export and another program. Maybe this is as good as it gets, but I've already tried a couple things. Like, for example, I don't like that the sky's black, so when I posted a image of this on my Twitter feed, I cut out the sky and instead put like clouds up there just to make it look a little cooler. But yeah, so this is Sandpillar, and this is what it looks like if you were at Sandpillar looking around. Although probably if this were real, it wouldn't be as blocky. But alright, so let's move up. One thing I thought was pretty cool here is these mountain ranges here. Like if you were to climb these mountains and go up to a ridge, let's say this one right here. Okay, so here we are on top of this ridge, what the view would look like of the world. So you've got this little tower mountain here, but here you go. So you're standing up on top of this mountain ridge as a dwarf, let's say, and you can look down. Not only can you see Sandpillar, there it is, but you can see the entire goblin civilization stretched out in front of you. There's an entire human civilization right over here. And then there's the elven civilization here in the jungles, and you can look again at your mountain range. So I just think this is a really, really interesting and cool tool. I think it's probably the best thing we have so far to get a macro picture of the world. I like ISO World a lot too, but it only shows you a small portion of the world at any given time, whereas this actually shows you everything. So let's take a look here. Let's go down. Now we're in free move mode. Let's go. See what this is, for example. So this is kind of a mountain pass. It might be a white sand desert. I'm not sure what. I think, yeah, white probably is a white sand desert, and there's a river cutting through it. And if you look over here, giant waterfall. How many Z levels? It's hard to estimate. You have to kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, about 13 or 14 Z level waterfall, but that's only the second part of the waterfall. If you go up here, there's the first part of it all the way up here. Although the game does prevent you from embarking in a pure mountain biome. You have to have at least some non-mountain biome to be able to embark. That would be definitely a cool fortress to embark, like here and here. So make your embark zone include these 3 squares and then these 3 down here. That would be a very interesting embark. And then these are Badlands, I presume. And you've got a bunch of big waterfalls falling into them. And you can adjust this program in many ways. Like I'm just kind of using it base, but you can do, like, for example, 2 light sources, which kind of changes, or 2 light bounces, which kind of changes how things look. I'm not a big fan of depth of field, so I generally take that away. It hasn't hurt us so far right now, but I'm not a big fan of it. The shadow softness just makes things look a little bit less harsh. And you can change the position of the sun in the sky as well, though I have yet to see, what good that does. But you can see it kind of changes the color scheme to have 2 different light sources. There's a little bit of green tint now. You go to 4, gets even more pronounced. But you go back to 1, and it turns more of a brownish gray. And 0, just no fun at all. I think 2 is a pretty good version. But you can see a lot of waterfalls in our civilization's main mountain range. And you can kind of fly over the world, take a look at things. Obviously, you can't see structures, so you're not going to see like little towers, but you can tell where the Goblin civilization is from here. This is their main capital. And as we continue flying, there's, once again, Sandpillar. You can see how close it is. There's the Goblin city right here. All right, and then over here, Sandpillar. So we're right next to it. Then there's this huge Badlands region that the humans live in. And you can see their civilization. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not the best at this. We're getting better slowly. All right, so here's the human civilization. You can see their little hamlets and towns. This is a goblin, I believe. It might be Mangy Spider. But this is definitely the human civilization right here. And this I thought was pretty cool. These are the volcanoes in our world. And they're kind of in the south in the ice caps. So they look like icy volcanoes. Let's see, I'll go to perspective. I can move a little faster. Yeah, a little bit. Of course, it stops you at some point. It doesn't let you move forward anymore. So if you were to embark here, this would be a very steep map. You've got these kind of two volcanic pillars. And if you were to stand on top of it, let's see. Okay, here we are. So this is what, if you were standing on top of the volcano, there you are. This is what Enthador would look like to you. Quite interesting. Now this is a neutral ocean, and this over here is an evil ocean. And I don't want to give too many spoilers as to what I have planned in the future, but I do kind of want to do a fortress that's literally right on the ocean, and the vast majority of the fortress is under the ocean. So I've been looking at, I want it to be the evil ocean, because they have crazy things like undead whales and other interesting stuff. So I'm trying to find a good starting point. And what I'd like is a little bit of an isthmus. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a little piece of land that juts out into the ocean. Like this right here, it seems like a great example. So if you were to form your fortress here, you can kind of build the entrance on this little isthmus and then go underneath the ocean. Now, this looks like a river here or something. I'm not sure what that is. It might be, this is swampy, probably. But yeah, something like this, or I'm sure there are others like this. A little, or here we go. Oops, here we go. This guy here, another little river. So these are both where the rivers enter the ocean. You can put like a little fortress entrance here. This is 1 square in game, so it's pretty big. You can put your entrance right there and then do your fort under the ocean. That really seems like a fun time. Let's go quickly check out the area where, and it's cool when you get really close because you can see these little canyons that the rivers carve out, just like in real life. You know how river geology cuts through rock and creates canyons and waterfalls? Like, this would be a fun little place, like down in this gulch here. Like, I feel like I'm in Star Wars, like about to take out the Death Star, but you can see, look at this giant waterfall in this gulch surrounded by high hills. This is probably, I don't know if this is wetlands or forest, but that'd be a cool place to have a fortress. There's another one. See, there's so many cool places that in the regular viewer you wouldn't be able to really know how cool they look because the game doesn't really give you the 3D aspect. But here, yeah, here's the Great Mountain Range that our people come from. Now, the one area the detailed map kind of fails us is the Dwarven highways show up on the map. But because the map generates everything in 3D, the Dwarven highways look like they're going up and down the mountains. But in reality, they're not. In reality, these Dwarven highways are underground. So you can think of them as being under the mountains and flat, but they kind of go up here and go up and down and around, and they don't really do that in the actual game. But I just love this. I love how the rivers, you know, just kind of plop down here. Again, you can't start a fortress in a pure mountain biome, so you wouldn't be able to start one like here or here or here unless you had some kind of mod, like Anywhere Embark mod. But I just love looking at it. Like, it's so beautiful. All these places, like here, you can probably embark here with this giant waterfall. There's so many cool little waterfalls and canyons and stuff. What is this? I'm not sure what this is. This might be a Dwarven mountain home or something, because it has the same kind of look as Sandpillar. It's got the dark gray on the outside and the white in the middle. And it's kind of here in these mountains on its own, so it kind of has the feel to me of maybe a dwarven fortress. Oh look, those are the, I think those are the elven, or that could be human down here. Here's another one, see? Yeah, see, the way that Sandpillar looks, where it's like the white in the middle with the gray, I'm pretty sure this is like a dwarven mountain home or a dwarven fortress. And again, it might not be way up here in the mountains, it might be deep down within them, but you kind of get the idea. And there's that little baby mountain range here in the middle. And we got another one of those dwarven sites. A couple of them. There's one here, one there. So anyways, yeah, this is MagicaVoxel using Japa's tool, Voxel Fortress. And I highly recommend you guys check this out because it is really, really cool. Now, I'm a little disappointed actually. Enthador, for the most part, is a very flat world. Aside from the two major mountain ranges, all the other ones are like this. They're kind of baby mountain ranges. So it's not the most dramatic landscape, but still, I'm having a good time. I think it looks really cool. Maybe the person who makes this program, MagicaVoxel, will make it sometime where you can change the color of the sky. Maybe make it blue, at least, just to make it a little bit more realistic looking. Or kind of a smoothing where everything's not so blocky like Minecraft, but they actually have slopes. That would be interesting, too. So that's that. I just want to show you this because I'm really fond of it. I think it's really, really cool. But moving on, I've got a couple other things to talk to you about. I mentioned Japa's other program, Dwarf Portrait, and I'll show that to you now. It's a bit on the creepy side, so just be prepared. Okay, so what it does is it reads your files to get your dwarfs. This right here is Jaxi, by the way, and it changes their appearance, like for instance, there's upper arm, lower arm, based on what the game says. And it's still definitely a work in progress, but like Hezekiah Bearchild is obviously skinnier than Jaxi. You can see that. Ingelram Isenzon, smaller. Isomor is kind of short and stocky. Kaladin is very, very thin. I'm trying to find somebody with like, oh wow, Homer's gigantic. No wonder he's killing everybody in tavern brawls. He looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones. But you can see a lot of things change. Like if you zoom in, the eye color. See, this guy's Ixchel has brown eyes, where Isomor also has brown eyes, but his head is more flat. Jaguar has kind of reddish eyes. Back to Jaxi. Jaxi has really closed eyes. So it reads, and you can find this out by looking at the flags and the body parts here. So you'll see like the different lower body, lower leg, all 5 toes. So I guess if they got in battle and they're missing a toe or something, that'll show up. They have all the teeth and everything. But like you can look at the cheek, for example, and it's small cheek, embedded. There's different things you can do here. I'm amazed, actually. A small throat. And you have flags here, body temp and range, size modifier, computed, calculated nerves, calculated body parts. So it gives you it seems like a ton of work to me, and I'm amazed that Japa was able to put it together, but eventually it's probably going to get a lot more detailed, but it does kind of give you the relative, at least if nothing else, it gives you the eye color and the relative size of each of the dwarves. Like this one here, Hephaestus has purple eyes. Henko Lijo has kind of green turquoise eyes. And you might think, oh, all the dwarves are the same color, but that's not true. It seems like in our fortress we do have a predominantly Caucasian amount of dwarves, but there are a couple here of different skin color. Somewhere, trust me, I saw one a while ago. Oh well, but anyways, I'm not just gonna keep clicking through this forever. Well, maybe I will. It's just this is all of our dwarves, people. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Soleil. Soleil is a darker dwarf than the rest of our fortress, with really beautiful green eyes. But things get a little funny too when you leave your dwarves behind, and like for example, here is Ava's armor-plated one of our turkeys. I mean, I like it. He has a little beak, and he has wings. Okay, so it's kind of cool, but it's still funny. There's one of our dogs, Domas. And just in case you guys are wondering, this is a tail. Okay, this is a tail. You see, when you hover over it, it says tail. So I hope you don't think it's something else. Like for example, Aerith, our pig. Oh man. But anyway, so yeah, so this is it's a fun little tool I'm sure it's going to be improved upon quite a bit, but I just like looking at the goofy dwarves. All right, moving on. So I wanted to... One thing about me is I tend to occasionally complain about the size of my channel. I'm about, what am I, about 9,000 subs. Not quite there yet, 8,700. And I know a lot of people that have channels in like the hundreds of thousands of subs, and they're all fantastic channels, you know, and they're better than my channel, so that makes perfect sense, but I always feel like I could be doing a little bit better. But then sometimes there's the reverse side of the coin, where I see other channels that put out really good work and don't have hardly any subscribers and don't get a lot of views, and so I try to rectify that, because the Dwarf Fortress community in general is very small, and there are a lot of good channels out there. So the first channel I want to cite is KrugSmash. Now, I know KrugSmash because he is Dwarf Comics' friend, and he was one of the characters actually in my Aurelius Steel Balls Dwarf Fortress Adventure Mode LP. And he's a really good guy. So I was on vacation a bit ago, about a couple weekends ago, and I had some free time. So I watched some of his Dwarf Fortress LPs, and I just think he is fantastic. And I'm going to talk about him in a future episode, future to you. It's already happened, but I wanted to at least show you his page. He embarked in an evil biome here for Steel Clutches, and his series is quite different from mine in the sense that he does a lot of editing. So, for example, he'll be talking about how he's going to designate out his bedrooms, and then all of a sudden, a split second later, all those bedrooms are already designated. So he'll obviously cut the time, but if you listen to the commentary doesn't feel cut. It's very just surreal when I'm watching it, because it feels like he's speaking solidly, but the video changes constantly. But he's also recounting events as they're happening, so it's not like he recorded it first, did all the editing, and then recorded his voice later. It's really interesting to watch. Now, the one thing you might not be ready for is that he plays Dwarf Fortress in its most basic form. He doesn't use any kind of tile sets or accoutrements that I use or other programs. He just plays it straight up. He doesn't even use Dwarf Therapist. He gives his jobs to dwarves right there in the game itself. So you're going to see it like in ASCII, but I highly recommend you watch this Fortress. There's only 5 videos, and it's so good. It's a masterclass on how to survive in an evil biome. In fact, I'm going to steal a couple ideas from him, I'm pretty sure, moving forward. And he's a really good commentator, and his fortress his fortresses, unlike mine, my fortresses are very vertical. I like to not use up that much space, but have them be very long. Whereas his fortress is more fat. So he really takes up all of his space. And I highly recommend you give KrugSmash a look. Next, we have Joshua Turcotte. Now, I don't really know much about Joshua. I don't have a ton of time, so I can't say I've ever watched one of his videos from start to finish. But what I have seen are his amazing intros, where he composes his own music, he has animation, and he's done what I consider to be one of the best Dwarf Fortress maps I've ever seen in my life. He's taken the game-generated map, and he's used a graphics program to create a really beautiful rendition of it, something that I wish I could do for Enthador. That would be amazing, but I simply just don't have the talent at the end of the day. But it's really, really amazing. So another thing, I don't have the time to really watch through his episodes start to finish, but what I like to do is I like to go into like a middle episode and click in the middle of it and just take a look at the fortress designs. That's probably one of my favorite things to do in YouTube Dwarf Fortress videos. I don't necessarily listen to the commentary, but I look at the fortress designs and kind of scan them, because I like to steal ideas a lot, and I like to see how people do things differently. That's how I get my ideas. And his fortresses are, in my opinion, really beautiful, really well done. He does a lot of cool fortress decorative stuff, like multicolored floors and designs and patterns. And so I recommend you definitely check him out too. He has a ton of volume too. He has a bunch of series. They all start off with, like I said, his own orchestrated music and animation. Now, again, I can't say anything about the commentary, what he talks about, because I really haven't heard a lot of it, but I'm sure it's just fine. But definitely check out Joshua here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's the video. I just wanted to show you our fortress in 3D, and also talk about some other YouTube channels that I've looked at recently and I think could use a couple views. So definitely go check out Joshua and check out KrugSmash and tell him that Marcus Aurelius sent you, because again, the Dwarf Fortress community is small and we should support everyone who gets on YouTube and makes cool Dwarf Fortress videos. So once again, I am Marcus Aurelius. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.